In a world of neon lights and supernatural powers, some still complain about school. A world where power is a commodity, and the poor must wait for handouts. The privileged students walk the streets, complaining about the easy life of the poor. But another reminds them that the original ability users saved them all from a great threat. A sentiment that one girl takes to heart, clutching her book and vowing to avoid the battlefield. Her future is already set. Level up her power and join the family fashion business. Must be nice. Just then, the school's star player arrives, a level 4 named Rayleigh. The girl who just renounced fighting nervously approaches him, trying to ask him out. But before she can finish, a loud voice challenges him from the crowd. A single defiant finger pointed straight at Rayleigh. The challenger taunts Rayleigh, yelling about his rude gesture. He leans in with a sneer, sarcastically asking if he's scared. But his smug expression instantly vanishes. He's suddenly on the ground, clutching his head in pain. The girl who just renounced fighting rushes to his side. Her vow is forgotten in a moment of genuine concern. But it wasn't Rayleigh who struck him. Another group now attacks the boy. Both Rayleigh and the girl watch, stunned by the sudden turn of events. The star player decides he's seen enough, his power flaring to life. He unleashes a blast of green energy to stop the assault. The blast scatters the crowd, leaving the challenger on the ground. The attackers walk away, leaving him with a final insult and broken glasses. Onlookers gossip about the incident, showing zero sympathy for the boy. Another group picks up his glasses, trying to place his familiar face. They finally remember him. Quinn, a powerless student living on handouts. In this world, not having powers is apparently a contagious disease. He walks home alone as news of a fragile peace treaty plays in the background. His time is running out. Tomorrow he reports to the military academy. He returns to a humble, empty room. But in his eyes, a flicker of something else remains. He opens a wooden box, revealing a strange, toothy book. The story flashes back 6 years. 2 grim-faced men arrive at his door, asking for him by name. A younger, more innocent Quinn confirms his identity. They deliver the worst news a child could ever hear. His parents died in the war, leaving him with no other family. His only inheritance is a strange book and a choice: keep it or sell it. He's left alone with this bizarre memento of his past. Back in the present, he wonders why they had to leave him. And to add insult to injury, the book won't even open. He sighs, frustrated that the book remains sealed. He wishes they'd left him a photo instead, as their faces are starting to fade from his memory. Lost in his grief, he doesn't notice his nose starting to bleed. A single drop lands on the book's toothy clasp. He panics, realizing his nose is bleeding again. He quickly tries to wipe the stain away. But then he sees a strange crimson glow. The book begins to radiate with a powerful energy. A wave of light erupts, throwing Quinn across the room. And after all these years, the book has finally opened. A beam of raw energy erupts from the book and slams directly into his mind. He screams as the information floods his senses. The pain is unlike anything he's ever known. And then, just as suddenly, it stops. He collapses to the floor, his head throbbing. A system window appears, congratulating him. Well, that's a new one. He's been granted something called vampire blood. The shock of it all is too much to handle. His mind drifts back to another time he was an outcast. He remembers being shunned by the other orphans. The memory shifts to the day he learned the truth. A moment of pure, devastating shock. A voice calls his name from a dark, empty portrait. The voice screams his name with desperate urgency. He jolts awake with a scream, his own name on his lips. But his nightmare is interrupted by a real-world problem. He scrambles to his feet as the countdown continues. He's met by a furious Sergeant Griff who is not impressed. He's given 2 minutes to grab his things and get moving. He snaps to attention, his mind racing back to the ability book. A look of shock crosses his face as he remembers opening it. His gaze falls to his broken glasses, a familiar sight of misfortune. He reaches for them but pauses, sensing something is different. To his disbelief, his vision is now perfectly clear, but his moment of discovery is cut short by an angry shout. He scrambles outside, apologizing to the very unimpressed sergeant. He tries to take a seat, only to be coldly rejected by Rayleigh. And just his luck, the bus is packed with friendly-looking faces. The star player glares back, daring him to say something. But a friendly voice from the back offers him an open seat. The stranger introduces himself as Woden, and Quinn returns the gesture. But as they shake hands, a strange blue creature appears before Quinn's eyes. He glances over at Woden, wondering if he can see it too. He tries to ignore it, but the creature blocks his hand again. Woden laughs it off, casually asking about Quinn's ability. He's surprised to learn that Quinn doesn't have one yet. Their conversation is cut short by a furious Sergeant Griff. The two of them immediately fall silent under his glare. Quinn realizes this strange vision must be connected to the book he opened. A status panel appears showing his name and base stats. He realizes the book has fused with him, possibly awakening an ability. As the bus drives on, he wonders what this new power could be. He tries to interact with the strange new interface, much to Woden's confusion. The bus continues its journey into the night, but suddenly Quinn's expression changes to one of shock. A sharp pain shoots through him as he grips the seat. He gasps for air as a warning flashes before his eyes. He watches in horror as his stats are suddenly cut in half. His strength, agility, and stamina plummet, leaving him weaker than ever. He yanks the curtain closed, realizing the sunlight was the cause. His stats begin to recover, but a new fear takes hold. Woden offers him some water, showing genuine concern. Quinn gratefully accepts, taking a long drink. A new system notification pops up, congratulating him for hydrating. His sudden outburst immediately draws the sergeant's ire. And just like that, he's completed his first daily quest. He stares at the mission list, a bizarre mix of tasks. He thinks about how other users train their single abilities. But his feels like a video game he can't yet understand. Quinn tries to ask the sergeant a question, but finds his new friend Woden is already fast asleep. In fact, the entire bus is eerily silent and still. A system alert reveals the truth. An airborne contaminant is putting everyone to sleep. But Sergeant Griff has a special treatment for the one kid who's still awake. He forces a cloth over Quinn's face, trying to knock him out. A danger warning flashes as Quinn struggles to keep his eyes open. He's jolted awake as a bag is pulled from his head. Woden is there, teasing him about his nap as Quinn asks where they are. They've arrived at the military academy, along with the other new recruits. Quinn finds himself in a grand hall with other dazed students. He and Woden exchange confused glances, trying to get their bearings. A proctor named Jane announces it's time for a supernatural ability test. The first student called, a boy named Peter, nervously steps forward. He admits to the proctor that he doesn't actually have an ability. While others are surprised, Quinn realizes he's not the only powerless one here. A hooded figure then offers Peter a glowing book, a starter pack for the magically challenged. Peter takes the book, amazed that they're just giving powers away for free. A device on his wrist activates, officially classifying him as a level 1. Quinn notices a similar band on his own arm, which Woden explains is their school ID. The proctor calls out the next name, Quinn Taryn. Quinn looks up, surprised his turn has come so soon. She asks about his ability, a question he answers honestly. Just like before, the hooded figure offers him a starter book, but a system notification pops up with a strange offer. It says he can't learn the ability, confirming he already has one. He's tempted to trade the book for experience points, but fears the questions, so he politely declines, much to everyone's surprise. The proctor is shocked, reminding him it's a free power-up. But Quinn stands firm, saying he'll manage on his own. The proctor pauses the test, turning to the hooded figure. She reports the unusual situation to a superior. The voice on the other end orders a potential test. With new orders, she directs Quinn to an outdoor testing area. The instructions are simple. Destroy 3 targets as fast as he can. He steps into the sunlit arena, already feeling weak. He realizes his vampire weakness is kicking in under the bright sun. With no other choice, he decides to push through the pain. He throws a punch, and the proctor's tablet registers a strength of 5. She's left utterly speechless by his pathetic display. He struggles to block the dummy's attack, throwing every ounce of his weakened strength into the counter. His agility test is just as pathetic, scoring another 5. The proctor officially declares him a level 1 and sends him on his way. But the system reminds him of his biggest problem, the constant sunlight debuff. Woden offers some encouragement as Quinn finally steps back into the shade. The next student, a girl named Layla, reveals she has a psychic ability. Woden explains the concept of pure bloods to a confused Quinn. They're a faction that rejects powers, focusing on weapons and physical training. Meanwhile, Layla easily passes her test, earning a level 2 ranking. Another student protests her level 2 ranking, but the proctor explains the math. The proctor offers some hollow encouragement before calling the next name. Eileen Hare. A cocky student pats the newly called girl on the shoulder, glad he's the last one. She glares back, telling him to keep his hands to himself. But his hand is suddenly encased in a block of ice. She gives him a cold warning as he recoils in pain. As the proctor confirms her ice ability, another student tells the guy he was asking for trouble. He laughs it off, claiming he'd love a fight but has a policy against hitting girls. Real classy. Meanwhile, Eileen unleashes a storm of ice, shattering the targets with ease. The test is over in an instant, earning her an impressive level 5 ranking. The crowd is stunned by the display of a level 5 user. The proctor calls the next name Woden Fung. As he steps forward, the onlookers are left speechless. He unleashes an ice attack identical to Eileen's. The proctor confirms it. Another level 5 has been found. Woden proudly shows off his rank as Quinn realizes his friend is a walking copyright violation. Woden is shocked that Quinn figured out his secret so fast. Quinn explains his deductions, from their handshake to Woden's reaction to the ice. Woden is impressed by his perception, but Quinn realizes his body blocked the copy attempt. He's left wondering what his own mysterious power truly is. Woden leans in, asking if Quinn is a native ability user, a rare breed born with their powers not given them by a book. With the test finally over, the students are directed to the academy proper. They're transported through the air towards a sprawling, futuristic city. A beam of light deposits them on the academy grounds. A student runs into Quinn and Peter, boasting about his level 2 rank, but another student casually reveals he's a level 3, shutting him down. Ah, the joys of being a level 1. So much to look forward to. Elsewhere, the academy's elite are already drawing a crowd. Both Rayleigh and Eileen are swarmed by admirers, a perk of being high level. As the crowd fawns over the powerful, Quinn and Peter are completely ignored. Peter sighs at the familiar social ladder, and Quinn agrees this place is no different. A teacher named Dell finally brings order, telling them to draw their dorm numbers. Quinn loses track of Woden, but Peter correctly assumes he's off being popular. One by one, the students reach into a box to decide their new roommates. Peter draws number 23, and to his surprise, another student has the same one. His potential new roommate gives him a very judgmental look. But Quinn steps in, asking a different student for his number. He quickly swaps his own number, telling the two they should get along just fine. As Quinn walks off, Peter is left in tears, feeling like a burden to everyone. Quinn tries to comfort Peter, insisting they'll get stronger together. But their moment is interrupted by Woden, who happily announces he's their roommate. He pulls them both into a hug, leaving Peter in tears of gratitude. Elsewhere, the student Quinn swapped with complains about losing his spot. His friend offers to help him get it back, but the student quickly refuses. He explains that the guy who took his place is a level 5 user. The scene shifts to their new shared dormitory room. Woden suggests they go out, but Peter politely declines to study his new book. Quinn also passes, saying he needs to research his ability at the library. Woden, ever the enthusiast, decides to join him for a study session. They arrive at the academy's vast and impressive library. Woden is amazed by the crowd, yet the room is completely silent. Quinn notices people's mouths moving, but no sound reaches his ears. Woden points to a glowing orb on the table, a piece of advanced tech. He explains it creates a soundproof bubble, allowing them to talk freely. Quinn explains he's researching abilities, hoping to find one that suits him. Woden laughs, calling those who take the books military dogs. He reveals the dark truth. The books are a contract for military servitude. Quinn's heart sinks as he thinks of Peter, happily accepting his fate. He then asks Woden a very specific question about his own mysterious power. Woden finds the idea absurd, joking that a sunlight weakness is for vampires, not humans. Quinn sighs in frustration. None of the books seem to document his strange condition. He looks up, deciding to continue his search on the library's upper floors. He finds himself in the fantasy and knowledge section, hoping for a clue. He pulls out a book about a reincarnated dragon, finding the story surprisingly compelling. But he dismisses it as mere fantasy, lumping dragons and vampires into the realm of myth. He flips through another book, this one detailing the surprisingly systematic traits of vampires. He realizes their powers are far beyond his, but the weakness to sunlight is eerily familiar. Just then, a system notification appears, rewarding him with experience for his research. He stares in disbelief, completely baffled by this turn of events. He stares at the notification, the pieces finally clicking into place. Could his new power really be a vampire ability? The night passes, and a new day begins to dawn. Woden finally wakes up from his nap at the library table. He stretches, wondering if Quinn just ditched him. But upstairs, Quinn is still lost in his research, muttering about how insane this all is. His dedication is rewarded with another system notification. He's unlocked an optional task, whatever that means. And the task is to drink human blood. Well, that's not ominous at all. He realizes the legends are true, but at least the system isn't forcing him. Yet, he walks through the academy, weighing his options. Leveling up will be slow, but he's determined to see it through. Just then, he hears a crash and sees a familiar face in trouble. A level 2 bully has Peter pinned to the ground. Quinn watches in disgust as the thug demands money, so he decides to intervene with a well-timed trip. He offers a fake apology, much to the bully's fury. The guy scoffs at his level 1 rank and demands payment. But Quinn isn't intimidated, ready for the inevitable confrontation. And right on cue, his system activates combat mode. A new quest appears, offering experience for his first victory. The bully roars, his hands transforming into vicious claws. He lunges forward, swiping his claws with blinding speed. But Quinn manages to block the blow, absorbing the powerful impact. The bully is stunned, realizing Quinn's strength is far beyond a typical level 1. Quinn analyzes the transformation, remembering how power levels are calculated. He knows that without the sunlight debuff, his stats are at a solid 10. That puts him at a level 2 standard, giving him a real chance to win. He dodges the next swipe, the claws tearing through the air beside him. But the bully grins, realizing our boy's agility is his weak point. The bully's claws rake across Quinn's back, drawing blood. Peter can only watch in horror, screaming his friend's name. A system warning flashes as his health drops, and he realizes the sun is still out. But as he looks to the horizon, he sees the sun is finally about to set. The bully lunges in for the final blow as Quinn's health hits a critical low. But suddenly a blast of fire erupts from Peter's hands, and at that very moment, the last ray of sunlight vanishes from the sky. A system notification confirms his stats are recovering as his eyes glow a menacing red. The bully is stunned, unable to believe Quinn caught his attack. With a confident smirk, Quinn declares that now, it's his turn. The bully's confidence evaporates and he tries to plead for mercy. But Quinn isn't listening, unleashing a flurry of powerful blows. Each hit lands with brutal force, leaving the thug reeling. Peter watches in stunned silence as Quinn dominates the fight. He can't believe what he's seeing, questioning if Quinn was ever truly powerless. A final, decisive kick sends the bully crashing to the ground. He looks down at his hands, finally embracing the power of a vampire. His system confirms the victory, rewarding him with a nice chunk of experience. Not only that, but he's also unlocked a brand new skill called Survey. As combat mode deactivates, Quinn is left to process this unexpected upgrade. Peter worries about the unconscious bully, but Quinn reassures him. As his friend frets, Quinn decides to test his new Survey skill. He activates it on Peter, revealing a detailed status window. He then scans the fallen bully, noting his blood type and ability. A strange, intrusive thought suddenly crosses his mind. He's horrified by his own sudden, dark impulse. Peter's voice pulls him back to reality, urging him to leave. Quinn agrees, and the two of them quickly retreat. They leave behind the evidence of their violent encounter, and Quinn is left with a painful reminder of his own. Peter worries about Quinn's wounds, urging him to get them treated. But Quinn looks down to find his injuries have already vanished. He quickly changes his story, telling Peter he'll head to the infirmary alone. He sends his concerned friend back to the dorm with a flimsy excuse. Once he's alone, he finally gets a moment to process what's happening. He watches in amazement as his wounds magically seal themselves shut. A system notification confirms his health is restored, but his hunger has intensified. So that's the catch. He realizes he can heal with food and decides to find something to eat. He spots a vending machine near the training grounds. Dinner is served. Meanwhile, inside the training hall, practice dummies are put through their paces. A student finishes her archery practice, satisfied with her day's work. But her attention is caught by someone entering the training hall. She recognizes Quinn, the powerless level 1, wondering what he's doing here. She assumes he's come back to retest his strength after his pathetic display. He drops his jacket, ready to face the training dummy. The archer watches with amusement, curious to see what this ambitious kid can do. Quinn unleashes a powerful punch, his eyes glowing with newfound power. The machine registers a strength of 10, leaving the onlooker completely stunned. She realizes his agility is just as impressive, far beyond any level 1. Even the training dummies seem shocked by this sudden display of power. He lands as the system confirms his agility score of 10. He finished the test before his jacket even hit the floor. The archer is left speechless, wondering why he's hiding his true power. Later, the students head to the school cafeteria for a meal. Inside, a couple of level 1s spot an open table. But the nearby level 3 quickly scares them off. They retreat outside, complaining about the arrogance of the high-level students. Quinn, Peter, and Woden are eating together, but Peter feels out of place. But Woden shuts that talk down, insisting they're friends. He tells them to relax and eat, completely ignoring the social ladder. Elsewhere, an unimpressed student sips her drink, observing the academy's social scene. As a teacher reminds them of the fragile peace and the duty of ability users. Back in class, Quinn contemplates the limits of Woden's convenient copy ability, so he decides to test his new survey skill on his unsuspecting friend. He immediately notices something is off and asks Woden about Eileen's power. Woden whispers the truth. His copied abilities reset daily, requiring a fresh touch. He then complains that his powerless friends are no help for the next test. But the conversation is derailed by Quinn's seemingly bottomless appetite. A system notification confirms his hunger is growing, a side effect of his new powers. And as a new day dawns, his problems are only just beginning. Woden excuses himself, telling Quinn and Peter to go on ahead. Nearby, another group of students complains about being extorted by a high-level student. And just then, Quinn spots a familiar, bandaged face. Peter recognizes the bully from yesterday, panicking that he's back for revenge. The bully's friends mock them, pointing out the academy's only 2 powerless students. Peter fears the worst, but Quinn knows the bully won't risk revealing his defeat. But a different group surrounds them, demanding they lend them 10 points each. Peter is horrified, explaining that's a month's worth of living expenses. The lead thug tries to play it cool, but his aggressive friend isn't so subtle. Just then, Woden returns, offering to lend the bullies his own points instead. He offers them a loan with a smile, but the interest rate is steep. The bullies immediately try to backpedal, calling it a misunderstanding. But their escape is cut short by a new, more intimidating voice. 2 new students arrive, identified as Riley and Momo. Quinn immediately senses a dangerous aura coming from them. He tries to use his survey skill on the girl, but it fails to register. He then scans the boy, revealing an intimidating level 6. The 2 groups face off on the stairs in a tense standoff. The girl dismisses the bullies, who are more than happy to obey. Woden, completely unfazed, suggests they all go grab a bite to eat. But Riley stops them, reminding them of their place. Woden turns back, asking what he wants. Riley mentions the rumors about Woden hanging out with the lower levels. He smirks, admitting it's Woden's personal freedom. But he steps forward, explaining the Academy's unwritten rules. He gets in Quinn's face, saying that treating trash like people gives them delusional ideas about equality. He grins sadistically, excited for a war to get rid of the weak. Another well-adjusted student. But his words trigger a painful memory for Quinn. He clenches his fist, his own power flaring with rage. A violent burst of red energy erupts from his fist. He lunges forward with a crimson strike. But Riley effortlessly blocks the blow with his own power. The resulting shockwave sends both Quinn and Peter flying. They crash hard against the ground below. Riley's friend taunts him for his foolishness. But Woden decides to even the odds, lunging into the fray. The other bully dodges with ease, leaving Woden stunned. Quinn quickly pulls his friend back, telling him to stand down. He realizes his mistake. Woden is powerless right now. Riley offers a final chilling warning about the school's untouchables. He tells them to be careful, or they'll simply disappear. Woden can only watch them go, his expression a mix of anger and frustration. He explains the Academy's brutal system to his friends. The weak are forced to join the military for a chance at survival. A great career path, but Quinn tells Woden to stay away from them, leaving him stunned. He explains that Woden's protection will only paint a bigger target on their backs. Woden desperately tries to argue, insisting he can keep them safe. But Quinn is firm, telling him the best protection is distance. Peter reluctantly agrees, apologizing as he sides with Quinn. Woden finally snaps, telling them to do whatever they want. He storms off, leaving his friends behind. Peter worries they were too harsh, but Quinn stands by his decision. And from around the corner, Riley watches the drama unfold. Woden walks alone, his mind filled with self-doubt. He screams in frustration, rejecting his own inner turmoil. But his anger fades, convinced no one will ever understand him. He runs off, vowing to make his enemies pay. The scene shifts to a wide view of the futuristic city. But back on the ground, Riley delivers a brutal kick to Quinn. Riley scoffs at their pointless resistance. Having already taken their points for the month, Quinn can only glare, realizing nothing has changed. Peter tries to stay positive, but Quinn wonders when it will end. Just then, a system notification appears before him. A new side quest: defeat the very guy who just beat him. Well, that's encouraging. The system even sweetens the deal with an extra reward. But his vampire weakness kicks in, a harsh reminder of his limits. He and Peter finally return to their dorm room, only to find a bruised Woden waiting for them. He laughs it off, bragging that he won his own fight. But Quinn quickly cuts Peter off, lying that they just went out for a meal. They agree not to tell Woden the truth, wanting to spare his feelings. An awkward silence hangs between them as Woden climbs into his bunk. Quinn complains he's still hungry, so Woden suggests a trip to the store. But first, he transfers 10 of his own points to Quinn's account. He explains it's an apology for his stubbornness earlier that day. Quinn accepts, and the tension between them finally dissolves. Later, at a convenience store, he overhears a familiar conversation. It's the same 2 thugs complaining about Riley's demands for more points. A new side quest appears, offering experience for defeating an opponent. He glances at a Halloween display, and a clever plan begins to form. Later that night, One of the thugs walks alone through the academy grounds. He stops, sensing a creepy presence lurking in the nearby shadows. He nervously calls out, demanding to know who's there. But after a moment of silence, he dismisses it as his imagination. That is, until a masked figure with glowing red eyes appears before him. The thug just smirks, clearly unimpressed by the spooky costume. A loud crash suddenly shatters the quiet of the night. With one thug down, Quinn wonders where the other one has gone. The second thug appears from the shadows, demanding to know his identity. Quinn realizes his stealthy approach has completely failed. As the thug attacks, Quinn activates his survey skill. He scans his opponent, revealing a wind-based ability. The thug lunges forward, his hands wreathed in green energy. Quinn is taken aback by the sheer speed of the attack. A blade of wind slices across his shoulder, drawing blood. The thug scoffs, assuming he's just another victim seeking revenge. He unleashes another barrage, forcing Quinn on the defensive. He offers a chance to surrender if Quinn reveals his face. How generous. Quinn analyzes his opponent's style, realizing his defense must be weak. He just needs to land one solid hit, but the thug's attacks are relentless. The thug springs his trap, revealing his wind blades can be controlled remotely. Quinn is caught in the storm, taking damage from all sides. But he clenches his fist, a desperate plan forming in his mind. He uses his own blood as a weapon, flicking it forward. The crimson projectile flies through the air with surprising speed. It strikes the thug directly in the eye, momentarily blinding him. Quinn seizes the opportunity, lunging in for a decisive blow. And in the chaos, a single walnut falls to the ground. Yes, a walnut. He lands a brutal kick, taunting the thug for falling for his trick. The walnut projectile shatters, leaving the thug in absolute agony. With his opponent down, the system confirms his side quest is complete. He complains about the stingy rewards, but a new prompt offers him a level up. He accepts, and a wave of energy surges into him. His eyes flash with a dangerous crimson light. He screams as his body is racked with the pain of his evolution. The scene then cuts to a quiet convenience store later that night. A girl with pink-streaked hair walks along the empty street, but she suddenly stops, sensing a strange disturbance in the air. She pauses, sensing something is wrong down the dark alley. Meanwhile, Quinn's system confirms his evolution into a half-human. He's also unlocked a new skill, a blood blade that costs health to use. But the level up comes with a terrible price, an agonizing hunger. A system warning flashes. His health will now drain until he drinks blood. He stares down at the unconscious thug, his instincts taking over. The primal urge for blood consumes his every thought. He gives in, leaning over his victim with fangs bared. But from the bushes, a terrified witness sees everything, and the scene is depicted with a surprising amount of romantic flair. The witness is left blushing, completely misreading the situation. But Quinn snaps back to reality, horrified by what he was about to do. He shoves the thug away, fighting against his own primal instincts. Terrified of himself, he makes a desperate run for it. The girl watches him go, realizing it wasn't a kiss after all. Her curiosity gets the better of her, and she decides to follow. But Quinn's health is plummeting with every step he takes. A system warning confirms his worst fear. Without blood, he'll die. He races towards one of the academy's main buildings. His destination is the infirmary, a place that might just save him. The girl follows him, assuming he needs medical attention. But Quinn isn't looking for bandages. He's searching for something else entirely. A final warning flashes as the pain becomes unbearable. He collapses, and the girl rushes in to catch his fall. She asks what's wrong, feeling the intense heat radiating from his body. But his crimson eyes are locked on her, his instincts screaming. He whispers an apology, his fangs now fully extended, and in a moment of desperation, he gives in to the hunger. She struggles against him, completely terrified by the sudden assault, as his system finally gets what it's been demanding. The girl stares in absolute terror, tears streaming down her face. Quinn stumbles back, the horrifying reality of his actions crashing down on him. A system notification confirms his health is recovering, but he's more concerned that she's still breathing. He rushes to her side, trying to see if she's conscious. He gently lays her on an infirmary bed, promising to find a doctor. And then he's off, sprinting through the halls and screaming for help. The scene shifts, a dark and thorny transition hinting at his vampiric nature. Sometime later, the girl slowly begins to wake up. She's greeted by a friendly-faced Dr. Haley, who tells her it's just a little anemia. The doctor then mentions her very anxious boyfriend, who apparently caused quite a scene. Well, that's one way to describe it. The girl is left completely bewildered by the doctor's assumption. She quickly denies it, explaining he's just a classmate. but as she touches her neck, the memory of the attack comes flooding back, and she arrives at a single, terrifying conclusion. Meanwhile, back in his dorm, Quinn reflects on the night's events. He lies awake, processing the consequences of his actions. The system confirms his hunger is gone, and he's even gained a stat boost. But he can't forget the taste, wondering if it's a universal craving. The panic sets in as he realizes she could expose him at any moment. He even considers a business arrangement before realizing how insane that sounds. And also, he's broke. The next morning, Quinn is still haunted by his actions. In class, a teacher announces an upcoming combat practice. The other students grumble about the no powers rule. Quinn uses his hunger as an excuse to slip away from his friends. As they head off to eat, he begins his own desperate search. He needs to find a source of blood and fast. He decides to try his luck at the school's laboratory, but a hand on his shoulder stops him in his tracks. It's the girl from the infirmary, and she looks furious. She accuses him of biting her, but Quinn feigns ignorance. But she's not buying it, furiously accusing him of drinking her blood. Quinn looks away, admitting she's right and that he had his reasons. She pins him against the wall, asking what he wants in exchange for her silence. She leans in with a sly grin, offering to keep his secret for just one promise. And that promise is for him to turn her into a vampire too. She clasps her hands, eagerly repeating her very unexpected request. Quinn can only stare, asking if she's serious. Well, this is a plot twist. She explains her love for vampire novels, a passion she inherited from her writer father. He tries to let her down gently, explaining he can't actually turn people. She slumps in defeat as Quinn explains the rules, one ability per person for life. He explains that his power is too dangerous and unpredictable to reveal, but she latches onto his uncertainty, realizing he might learn to turn others later. She offers a deal, her blood now, in exchange for a future as a vampire. She seals the pact with a hug, but a frantic voice suddenly calls his name. It's Peter, looking terrified, as the girl dismisses him with a glance. He screams that their friend Woden is in serious trouble. The scene shifts as they race across the academy grounds. They burst through a door, calling out their friend's name in panic. Inside, they find Woden standing over a dozen unconscious bodies. The floor is covered in blood, a testament to the brutal fight that just ended. Quinn can only stare, his vampiric senses on high alert. Peter asks Woden if he's responsible for this brutal scene. Woden stands silently, covered in the aftermath of his battle. Quinn asks if this was their fault, but Woden just pushes him away. The girl, Layla, points out his injuries, urging him to get help. But Woden just glares at her, his expression cold and distant. He walks off alone, telling them to leave him be. As they leave, Peter explains what happened before they arrived. Quinn wonders what the seniors did, before asking about their new companion. Layla introduces herself and immediately latches onto Quinn's arm. Peter runs off to find Woden, leaving Quinn alone with his new fan. Layla quickly grabs him, saying she has a few questions for him in private. She drags him away, insisting that nothing is more important than a good meal. But their destination isn't the cafeteria, it's the infirmary. She strikes a dramatic pose, asking him to please be gentle. But Quinn is all business, holding a first aid kit and looking very confused. He explains he won't bite her directly for hygiene reasons. She is not amused. He carefully draws her blood with a syringe, explaining he can save some for later. She then suggests he could sell his ability book if he's ever short on cash. But Quinn explains the book merged with his body, a concept she finds unbelievable. She explains her theory that the original ability users were just like him, and with enough training, he could become a true vampire. He examines the vial, noting the small amount won't harm her. He takes a sip, surprised by the unexpectedly sweet taste. A system notification reveals a new mechanic. Different blood types can grant different stat boosts. A real shame about those thugs. Layla notices his creepy grin, and he thanks her for the new lead. He's ready to head back to the library, but Layla is still hungry. She's shocked he can taste that, but he admits he was just kidding. But from the shadows, a gloomy onlooker vows to protect her. Back in the dorm, Woden wrestles with his thoughts. He argues with himself over Quinn's dangerous nature. Just as Peter returns, overhearing Woden's unheard vow, Woden turns, flustered by his friend's sudden appearance. He quickly denies talking to anyone, a stiff smile on his face. But Peter isn't convinced, so Woden quickly changes the subject. He brushes off Peter's questions, hiding the truth of his own fight. Elsewhere, Quinn thanks Layla, who bows and calls him master. He waves goodbye, completely baffled by his new, very devoted follower. He returns to the dorm to find Peter has finally mastered his fire ability. Quinn is amazed by Peter's progress, but Woden points out a practical flaw in his technique. He shows Peter how to concentrate his earth power into a solid staff. Peter is impressed by the level 5 skill, but Woden just calls it practice. Quinn checks on Woden, who quickly brushes off his concerns with a smile. But Woden quickly changes the subject, asking if Quinn is in a relationship. He teases him about Layla, accusing him of hiding a girlfriend from them. Quinn frantically denies it, struggling to explain their unique arrangement. His mind flashes to a very different version of their master-servant relationship. He quickly lies, claiming he was just asking for advice on beast gear weapons. Peter explains the upcoming combat class is divided into unarmed and weapon-based groups. Woden explains the two paths: unarmed combat for the brawlers, and beast gear for those who need a tactical edge. Peter nervously chooses unarmed, and Woden agrees to join him for support. Woden teases that Layla can take care of Quinn, who decides to try the weapons. The next day, the students gather in a grand hall for their first task. A teacher explains that without powers, weapons are their only hope. But a couple of students in the back aren't buying the sales pitch. Their mockery is cut short by a flash of green light. The instructor, Leo, appears with a chilling piece of advice. Just then, Layla appears, happy to have Quinn all to herself. Layla points out Eileen, the level 5 ice user. Leo instructs them to choose their weapons wisely. Quinn activates his survey skill, analyzing the weapons. But one particular item catches his eye: a pair of gauntlets compatible with his Bloodblade skill. He realizes they're a perfect match for his power. Talk about a match made in a very dark heaven. But Leo warns him against the choice, explaining the risks. Quinn stands firm, undeterred by the instructor's advice. With their weapons chosen, a new instructor calls for a volunteer, and from the crowd, a single hand rises to the challenge. The crowd erupts as Eileen steps forward, the Academy's level 5 goddess. The instructor is pleased, but suddenly a dozen other hands shoot up. He ignores the fanboys and picks a large, muscular student for the demonstration. The challenger approaches Eileen, mocking her for her slender frame, but she remains silent, her sword crackling with an icy energy. He roars, bringing his massive axe down in a powerful, glowing arc. Their weapons collide in a brilliant flash of blue and gold. Her eyes glow with power as she effortlessly pushes him back. She disarms him in an instant, forcing a very quick surrender. Well, that was an honorable duel. Quinn watches intently, impressed by her flawless, elegant technique. The instructor announces the next phase: sparring matches against similarly leveled opponents. Quinn's opponent is a level 3, and the guy is not happy about being matched with a level 1. His friends mock him for the easy fight, and he storms off in a huff. He turns to Quinn, eager to get this over with, as our boy feels the familiar sting of being underestimated. Layla watches with concern as the crowd whispers about the powerless kid's impractical weapon choice. But a system notification gives Quinn a new mission: defeat his opponent for a hefty experience bonus. The two opponents take their stances, ready to begin the duel. The level 3 lunges forward with a powerful thrust, but Quinn dodges with surprising ease. His opponent is impressed by his speed, but reveals that stabbing isn't his weapon's true power. It's slashing as he prepares a wide, sweeping attack. The level 3 unleashes a powerful, sweeping strike. Layla gasps in horror, screaming Quinn's name. But Quinn catches the blade with his gauntlet, casually complimenting the weapon's durability. He offers the spear back with a menacing grin, and then promptly shatters it with a single throw. The crowd is stunned, but Layla is absolutely thrilled. Quinn follows up with a swift punch to the face. The blow sends his opponent reeling backwards. He stumbles, his weapon now in pieces at his feet. The instructor calls the match, declaring Quinn the winner. The loser protests, blaming his weapon for the defeat, but the instructor silences them with a roar, vouching for the match's integrity. Layla rushes over, relieved he's okay, as other students gossip in disbelief. She warns him that he's just made a lot of new enemies. But Quinn isn't listening, calling his opponent's nosebleed a waste. Layla quickly puts 2 and 2 together, realizing he's hungry. She offers to help with that later, much to Quinn's complete shock. His system confirms the victory, along with a massive experience boost. He's also unlocked a new skill, a personal blood bank. Instructor Leo watches from the side, finding the powerless Quinn rather interesting. An hour later, he announces the next phase: 2-person team combat practice. Elsewhere, the student Quinn just defeated finds a partner for the upcoming match. His friend whispers a new plan, a sly grin on his face. They approach Quinn and Layla, challenging them to a rematch. He even offers a wager. If they lose, they'll pay up 10 credits each. Layla agrees the terms are too good to pass up. A classic, what could possibly go wrong scenario. They accept the deal, though they both sense it's some kind of trap. As the teams take their positions, The crowd begins to heckle the opponents, and right on cue, a new system quest appears for Quinn. Quinn knows the experience points are the real prize here. Their opponents analyze the setup, expecting a 2-on-1 rush. But Quinn has a different plan, telling Layla to distract the shield user. The teams take their positions as the instructor begins the match. Quinn immediately clashes with the swordsman, who seems a lot more confident this time. The shield user tries to flank him, but is stopped by a well-aimed shot. Layla fires another arrow, reminding him that she's his opponent. She finds his strategy strange. He's only defending, not attacking. He hunkers down behind his shield, calling out to his partner. Just then, the swordsman changes his stance, unleashing a flurry of attacks. Quinn braces himself as his opponent's blade crackles with a strange energy. Meanwhile, the shield user begins to gather his own power. He unleashes his ability, breaking the rules of the match. Layla realizes with horror that they're using their supernatural powers. A barrage of bone projectiles erupts from behind the shield. They fly straight for Quinn, who is caught completely off guard. One of the bones slams into his shoulder, drawing blood. The swordsman's blade is now stained with Quinn's blood. He presses his advantage, his electrified sword clashing against Quinn's defense. A system warning flashes as Quinn's health drops, and the swordsman mocks him for his carelessness. Layla furiously calls out the cheater, who just smirks and plays dumb. But Instructor Leo is having none of it, ordering the student out of his class. The crowd whispers about the unfair match as Layla checks on Quinn. The swordsman's blade, now coated in Quinn's blood, falls to the ground. Layla can only watch in horror, unsure what will happen next. But Quinn just tightens his grip, a dark smile spreading across his face. He rips the bone from his own shoulder, much to his opponent's shock. His eyes glow a menacing red as he decides to play their game until the very end. The swordsman trembles, trying to convince himself he's not afraid of a level 1. Quinn lunges forward in a blur of red, his vampiric power fully unleashed. The swordsman is left completely stunned by Quinn's sudden counterattack. But before he can land the final blow, Instructor Leo intervenes with a flash of green. He orders Quinn to stand down, stopping the fight in its tracks. The instructor senses the killing intent fade, realizing just how close that kid came to crossing a line. Layla rushes to Quinn's side as Leo calls for the medical team. He then turns to the cheater, permanently expelling him from the class. Guess he won't be needing those credits after all. As the medics arrive, the crowd murmurs about Quinn's impossible speed. Even Eileen watches with interest, wondering if the level 1 has been hiding his true power all along. Leo stands over the discarded gauntlet, questioning what Quinn is truly capable of. He's never seen anyone use the weapon with such brutal efficiency. Sometime later, Layla relays the doctor's official diagnosis. She reassures Quinn that his rapid healing went completely unnoticed. He thanks her for the blood, admitting he almost lost control back there. She offers to wash his clothes, and Quinn panics for a very teenage reason. But as she leaves, she runs right into his very worried roommates. She quickly tells Peter and Woden that their friend is going to be fine. But Woden's eyes fall on the blood-stained clothes in her hands. He explodes with rage, vowing to get revenge on Quinn's attackers. But a dark voice from the shadows tells him to calm down, much to everyone's confusion. Layla can only stare as Woden screams at a person no one else can see. He grabs Layla by the throat, demanding to know what she did to Quinn. Peter frantically tries to intervene as Layla denies everything. But Woden just screams, telling them not to call him by that name. Layla decides she's had enough, summoning a psychic blade. She pulls the glowing weapon free and slashes at Woden's arm, forcing him to let go. She glares back, furious at the sudden attack. More blades appear around her, a clear warning to back off. Peter jumps between them, insisting that Layla is Quinn's friend. The dark voice agrees, telling Woden to listen. Woden apologizes, saying he was just worried about Quinn. But Layla isn't interested, telling him to ask Quinn himself. She suggests Peter take his friend to a doctor. Peter asks if Woden is okay as he pulls the psychic blade from his arm. The dark voice whispers a sinister plan for revenge against Layla. Peter tries to reason with him, but Woden doesn't care that she's Quinn's friend. He then snaps back to normal with a smile, leaving Peter completely bewildered. Elsewhere, the two cheaters from class complain about their punishment. They bicker amongst themselves, blaming each other for their failure. The swordsman grabs his partner, reminding him who's really in charge here. The swordsman vows to teach Quinn a lesson that very night. Back in the infirmary, Peter is furious, wanting to settle the score, but Woden tells him to let it go, suggesting they stick together from now on. Quinn agrees they must rely on themselves, but Peter notices something is wrong. He points to a fresh bloody bandage wrapped around Woden's leg. Woden laughs it off as a training injury and quickly makes an excuse to leave. A classic deflection. Peter then tells Quinn that Woden has been acting strangely unstable lately. He reveals that Woden fought with Layla, and she was the one who injured him. Quinn is relieved Layla is okay and decides to keep this knowledge to himself. He wonders if Woden's behavior is a sign of something more serious. Peter and Woden finish their visit, telling Quinn they'll see him soon. Meanwhile, the two students from class are looking for their next meal. The swordsman tells his partner to lure their target somewhere private, and just then, they spot Quinn leaving his room. Talk about perfect timing. Quinn walks through the hospital halls, ignoring the staff's chatter. The thugs watch as he heads up a flight of stairs, straight towards the deserted rooftop. The swordsman lays out the plan, a classic pincer movement. He peeks through the rooftop door, ready to spring the trap. But when he gets there, he finds the rooftop is completely empty. A voice from the shadows asks if he was looking for someone. The bully's eyes widen in pure, unadulterated terror. He's met with a horrifying fanged grin. Guess the welcome party is starting. Meanwhile, the swordsman waits impatiently in the stairwell. But he suddenly halts, sensing something is very wrong. He looks up, completely horrified by what he sees. His partner is on the ground, being attacked by a hooded figure. He screams for the attacker to stop, but Quinn just looks up. A chilling, blood-stained laugh is his only reply. The swordsman lunges forward, unleashing his electrified blade. Quinn closes the distance in an instant, a terrifying grin on his face. The swordsman can barely react, stunned by his opponent's impossible speed. Quinn brings down a massive crimson blade, and the bully struggles to block the monstrous strength behind it. He's completely overpowered by Quinn's relentless vampiric assault. The swordsman takes a deep breath, preparing a desperate counter. He unleashes a powerful tremor attack, forcing Quinn to leap back. Quinn lands hard, clutching a fresh wound on his arm. The attack left a deep, bleeding gash. Looks like this guy has a few tricks of his own. The swordsman reveals a new defensive form. Relieved he barely survived the first strike. He declares it's his turn to attack, but then notices something strange. To his horror, the wound on Quinn's arm is already healing. Quinn summons a new, more powerful blood blade. He lunges forward to meet the swordsman's bone defense. The crimson weapon shatters the bone sword on impact. He unleashes a flurry of bone spikes, which seems a bit excessive. But Quinn's attacks are too fast, too relentless to stop. The swordsman can only watch as his defense crumbles before him. A final, brutal strike sends him flying across the rooftop. And under the pale moonlight, a familiar notification appears. His system confirms the victory, along with a very satisfying reward. He's now a level 3, and his stats have never been better. But his victory is cut short by the sound of approaching footsteps. Two nurses stumble upon the scene, their expressions turning to horror. They immediately call for medics and security, leaving Quinn with no easy escape. He's trapped, but a sudden voice from the shadows makes his heart stop. He reacts on instinct, silencing the intruder before they can make a sound. He realizes it's Layla, who explains she just came over to investigate. He's amazed to learn she can fly, and she offers him a quick getaway, just in time as security swarms the area, looking for any sign of the attacker. Quinn hears the guards closing in, their footsteps echoing, but Layla grabs him, insisting he take her with him. And with that, they leap from the rooftop into the night. Quinn panics as they plummet towards the ground. So much for a graceful exit, but Layla just closes her eyes, her psychic power flaring to life. A moment later, they're soaring through the air in a bubble of energy. They crash land back in her room, where she asks for the full story. The city's neon lights shine on, oblivious to the night's chaos. Quinn explains the thugs won't talk, as it would mean admitting defeat. He then asks about her fight with Woden, and she just calls him a lunatic. She warns him to be careful, convinced something is very wrong with Woden. The next day, Quinn walks the halls with a similar sense of unease. Layla suspects a mental condition, wondering if his ability is the cause, but his thoughts are interrupted by a familiar and very unwelcome voice. It's the swordsman from the rooftop, now offering a very polite apology. He apologizes for the training incident, leaving Quinn completely confused. But when he mentions last night, Quinn's expression turns deadly serious. The bully panics, swearing he saw nothing and begging to be spared. He runs off after thanking his new boss, and Quinn scoffs at his cowardice. Just then, Layla comes running, calling his name with urgency. She tells him one of the thugs he fought last night is dead. The victim's name was Faye, a level 2 first-year student. The official cause of death is listed as excessive blood loss, but the wounds on his body suggest an attack from a wild beast, a theory that makes no sense given the academy's tight security. The doctor explains he was brought in twice that night. The second time, he was found collapsed and unresponsive at the entrance. The lead investigator points out the wounds don't look like bites at all. They're more like large snake bites, which have already started to heal. With no clear answers, he orders a full investigation into the incident. In combat class, the whispers about Quinn have already begun. Layla is furious at the gossip, but Quinn tells her to just ignore it. But his newfound notoriety has attracted some unwanted attention. The military has arrived and they want to speak with him. He agrees to go, his mind racing with the possibility of betrayal. He reassures Layla as the crowd's rumors grow even darker. He's brought to an interrogation room, told not to be nervous. The investigators explain the situation. A student is dead, and they need to question him about his involvement. But as they touch, his system screams a warning. His defenses have been breached. The investigator's eyes glow as he asks the final damning question. A hooded woman uses her ability as Quinn denies everything. She stands, confirming his innocence and ending the interrogation. Well, that was anticlimactic. Quinn is stunned, realizing her power bypassed his system's defenses. The lead investigator dismisses him, leaving Quinn utterly bewildered. The hooded woman leads him away as he tries to process what happened. With no other suspects, the case is officially closed as an accident. The investigator seems eager to drop the case, fearing who's involved. A final thought hangs in the air. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. Later, Quinn tells Layla they just let him go after confirming he wasn't the killer. Quinn insists he's not a killer, wondering who could have finished the job. But Layla's attention is suddenly drawn elsewhere. She points out Peter, who's hanging out with a very unfriendly-looking crowd. And from the look on his face, it's definitely not by choice. Quinn rushes to help, but Layla stops him, pointing to another familiar face. Woden approaches the group, asking if his friend is in trouble. The leader just smiles, forcing a terrified Peter to agree he's fine. Woden tries to pull him away, but the thugs aren't letting their new friend go. He glares back, accusing them of treating Peter like a possession. But Peter himself de-escalates, telling Woden he's there on his own. Woden walks away, but Quinn calls out to him with concern. He tells Quinn that Peter insisted he was fine, but Woden isn't convinced. He doesn't trust Peter's new friends, and Quinn agrees they'll talk later. But Layla appears, teasing Quinn about being jealous. Woden tries to apologize for their fight, but she coldly tells him to stay away. Quinn offers support as Woden admits he's afraid to reveal his secrets. They agree to talk it out that night once Peter returns. Layla asks if Quinn will share his own secret, but he just brushes it off. A vampire's secret is probably a bit much for a casual chat. But that night, Quinn waits alone in the empty dorm room. The next morning, with his friends still missing, he decides to report them. A sudden announcement orders all first-year trainees to the auditorium. The students grumble about the interruption, but decide to go anyway. Quinn tells Layla he's worried this is connected to his missing friends. They arrive at a grand hall packed with other first-years. The crowd murmurs, wondering if it's a performance or just another lecture. Layla whispers that something is off. The stage is filled with upperclassmen, not teachers. And among them, Quinn spots a familiar, unwelcome face. Riley. A figure steps onto the stage, promising them something special. Oh, I'm sure it is. He speaks of the Academy's long-held traditions and their purpose, and he's here today to show them what happens to those who refuse to obey. Layla watches in silence, her expression unreadable. The speaker roars, revealing the brutal consequences of defiance. The crowd panics, wondering if the instructors are even aware of this. Quinn and Layla can only stare in disbelief. A curtain is pulled back, revealing a beaten and bound Woden. He gasps for air, his face a mask of pain and defiance. The speaker kicks him aside with a casual, mocking laugh. He then turns to the crowd, offering a lesson to the obedient ones. A real teacher of the year. He picks up a strange, crystalline orb from a nearby cart. He explains its power, a relic from the war against the Dalki. Quinn grits his teeth, furious at this blatant abuse of power. But one brave student stands up, questioning their authority. Riley just sighs, annoyed by the interruption. He silences the student with a brutal, glowing strike. The speaker asks if anyone else has questions. The silence is deafening. He explains how to activate the orb by channeling their own power. Once activated, they just have to throw it at the target. He smiles, asking if the instructions are simple enough. Customer service is clearly his passion. The students realize with horror that the target is Woden. The speaker then picks a terrified girl to demonstrate first. The girl trembles, unable to follow the brutal order, but the speaker warns her that this is her only chance. He decides to make an example of her instead, and the impact sends her flying in a burst of pain. She collapses to the ground as another student calls her name. The speaker scolds them for their lack of understanding. He picks another terrified student from the crowd. He tells the boy to perform well for the audience. What a great motivator. But the student can only apologize as he hurls the orb. It slams directly into Woden, adding to his agony. The speaker taunts the crowd, asking who wants to be next. Layla is furious, whispering that they need to find an instructor. But as the speaker threatens to pick someone, Quinn steps forward. He approaches the stage, volunteering to take a turn. The speaker recognizes him as Woden's roommate and finds this very interesting. Riley hands the crystal orb to a very nervous-looking Quinn, but his fear quickly melts away into a sinister, fanged grin. The crowd immediately turns on him, calling him a traitor for betraying his friend. As the speaker urges him on, Quinn analyzes his true targets. He notes the 8 other students, with 2 guarding Woden's side. He realizes the crowd is paralyzed by fear, waiting for someone to lead them. Their only hope seems to be Eileen, the strongest among them. He plays dumb, pretending he can't activate the orb as Riley grows impatient. But his system offers a shortcut, a way to activate it instantly. He accepts, and the orb erupts with a brilliant crimson light. Riley stares in disbelief, shocked that a level 1 could unleash such power. But before he throws it, he turns to the crowd with a question. Woden can only watch, begging his friend to stop. He reminds them that their power is meant to protect the ones they care about. And with a powerful spin, he hurls the orb straight into a training dummy. The speaker roars, ordering his lackeys to seize the defiant student. But Quinn is already on the move, bolting through the crowd. Riley gives chase, mocking Quinn's pathetic attempt to escape. He scoops up another crystal orb from the cart and hurls it at Riley, who easily dodges the projectile. But the orb finds a different target, taking out one of the other goons. The speaker tries to rally the others, but the crowd is starting to have second thoughts. So he authorizes his enforcers to use force on anyone who disobeys. One of them unleashes a wave of crackling blue energy, but it's met by a massive wall of ice, shattering on impact. She explains she only got involved because they attacked her first. The enforcer is stunned as his attacks are completely frozen. Eileen stands ready, her ice power on full display. The other thugs recognize her, realizing they need to coordinate, but their attacks are easily blocked by her icy defense. Another tries an earth attack, mocking her for being outnumbered, but he's suddenly forced to dodge an unseen projectile. He looks down to see a pair of glowing arrows at his feet. Layla joins the fight, standing back-to-back with Eileen. Looks like the cavalry has arrived. As the battle erupts, other students are caught in the crossfire. Elsewhere, a flashback reveals Peter's overwhelming guilt, his mind screaming the same words over and over. He'd asked his captor why they were in the auditorium. The thug just smirked, saying they'd had a tale. Woden had arrived, telling Peter to run. He stood between them, urging his friend to escape, but the thug easily swatted Woden aside. Peter could only watch, paralyzed by fear. He admits to himself that he's a coward. Back in the present, he watches Quinn in horror. Peter watches, questioning why Quinn can face them head-on, while he can only clench his fist in helpless frustration. Meanwhile, Quinn uses Survey, realizing Riley's skill is on another level. His defense is flawless, and his attacks are brutal. He hardens his own body into a living weapon. Even his long-range attacks are devastatingly precise. Quinn pulls a shard from his arm, wishing he had a real teacher. And just then, the world around him completely changes. A system notification offers a combat training course. Great timing, as always. A mysterious voice explains that time is frozen here as a new figure appears from the shadows. A new figure appears, a vampire welcoming him to the club. Finally, a proper orientation. Quinn realizes this isn't a person, but a projection. The instructor offers to teach him 2 new skills. He starts with a defensive technique, a skill called Flash Step. And back in reality, Riley's attacks suddenly miss their mark. He's stunned, wondering how a level 1 could be so fast. Quinn knows the skill lets him teleport short distances, but he only has 2 uses at his current level. Riley presses the attack, forcing Quinn to use 1 charge, but he knows that one last use is all he'll need. He unleashes a powerful punch, aiming straight for Riley's gut, but Riley just smirks, hardening his defense to absorb the blow. Quinn's eyes widen as he feels the impact completely nullified, but the instructor's voice echoes in his mind, explaining the second skill. He plants his foot, channeling all his power into a single point. He combines his new skills, unleashing a Bloodblade hammer strike. The crimson energy slams into Riley with devastating force. The level 6 bully can only watch as his defense completely shatters, and he's sent flying, defeated by the level 1 he so casually dismissed. The crowd is left in stunned disbelief. Quinn catches his breath, his system confirming the victory. But before he can celebrate, a new attack whips through the air. It strikes him hard, drawing blood. His health plummets as his blood bank kicks in to heal him. The speaker from the stage admits Quinn has been a nuisance. He declares that now, the real fight begins. He unleashes a massive fiery explosion from his whip, but Quinn uses his flash step to evade the blast, and counters with a crimson blood blade of his own. The speaker just scoffs, unimpressed by the counter. But the blade strikes empty air as the man vanishes. He moves with impossible speed, reappearing to land a brutal blow from behind. Quinn is at his limit with only one flash step left. He realizes this is no longer a fight he can win. Elsewhere, Layla's arrows are blocked by a storm of energy. One of the projectiles strikes her shoulder, drawing blood. Her opponent taunts her, enjoying his clear advantage. He closes in from behind, leaving her with no escape. But just as he closes in, Woden screams for Layla to touch him. He explains it's the only way he can help Quinn, so she reluctantly agrees. A surge of pink energy confirms the copy is complete. But his mind fractures. His inner voice is arguing over the weak ability. He falls silent, his inner conflict raging. The opponent is impressed by his resistance, as Layla realizes Woden's unstable mind is at it again. Woden lets out a furious scream, his power flaring. He shatters the binding technique with sheer force. He stomps his foot, unleashing a massive spike of energy. The blast erupts, sending everyone flying. Woden stands in the aftermath of his own psychic blast. He roars his opponent's name, Layden, declaring he's finally back. But Layden just scoffs, reminding him of their last very one-sided encounter. Woden insists he's no longer the same weakling he once was. Ladon feigns confusion, completely unimpressed by the tough talk. He unleashes another fiery strike from his whip. But this time, Woden catches the attack with his bare hand. The flames sputter out against his grip, much to his opponent's shock. Ladon realizes with a start that Woden's power is completely different now. Woden tells Quinn to help the others, ready to face this old enemy alone. Ladon roars, vowing to teach Woden another lesson. But Woden summons 2 psychic orbs of his own. The purple energy intercepts the fiery whip, throwing Ladon back in a burst of force. He uses his new psychic power to grab the weapon mid-air, and with a single thought, he shatters it completely. Another enforcer tries to flank him with an energy blade, but Woden blocks it with ease, telling him to get lost. Layden scoffs, assuming Woden will just use the crystal orbs. But Woden summons a storm of them, ready to end this. But Ladon just smirks, boasting that Woden's attacks are useless. Quinn watches as he dodges every single psychic blast with ease. He realizes Ladon's ability must be some form of prediction, but Woden declares that knowing what's coming won't save him. Ladon's smug expression finally vanishes. Woden reveals his true plan, an attack that can't be stopped. He clenches his fist, channeling his full psychic power. Ladon scoffs, believing Woden can only dodge his attacks, but he's suddenly struck from behind by a massive water blade. The attack hits hard, leaving him screaming in agony. Ladon stumbles back, blood dripping onto the floor, but the pain just makes him laugh maniacally. He admits he underestimated Woden's hidden strength, because Woden is now wielding 2 abilities at once. Quinn stares in shock, realizing where the second power came from. The psychic orbs and a water spirit now fight side by side. Woden just grins, saying the fight is finally getting interesting. But Layden reveals he's been holding back as well. He summons his own trump card, a glowing golden object. Layla recognizes it as a soul weapon, a sign of a second awakening. Layla explains that some users can have a second awakening, forging a unique soul weapon that only the talented can wield. Woden meets the fiery whip with his own dual powers. He unleashes a psychic counterattack, trying to gain the upper hand. But Layden's weapon easily tears through his defense. Quinn tries to intervene, but Eileen holds him back, warning him it's suicide. He checks his stats, realizing his blood bank is empty and his health is critical. So he turns to Layla, asking for an emergency donation. She seems a little too happy to help. He quickly clarifies they need some privacy, and she eagerly drags him away. But their escape is overshadowed by a massive explosion from the stage. Woden is caught in the whip's fiery grasp. Ladon unleashes a barrage of strikes, leaving him no room to escape. But Woden summons his water blade and slices through the burning restraints. He leaps away just as the ground erupts in flames. Ladon scoffs at the desperate counterattack. Woden knows he's at a disadvantage from his earlier injuries, but his inner voices are finally in agreement. He calls upon a mysterious little one to join the fight, but his expression suddenly shifts to one of pure shock. But a new voice cuts through the chaos, ordering them all to stop. A towering military sergeant arrives, and she is not happy. Ladon looks over, clearly annoyed by the interruption. She reminds him he's the sergeant in charge of this mess. She orders the wounded to the hospital and everyone else to their dorms. Layla realizes they need to leave before Quinn's healing is discovered. Peter rushes to Woden's side, revealing he was the one who called for help. But Woden just pulls him into a hug, telling him not to cry. He tells Peter it's just a broken arm, trying to lighten the mood. But Ladon watches them with a dark, unsettling glare. Woden asks what's wrong, but Peter just gasps in shock. He quickly dismisses it, and the 2 friends walk away together. The scene shifts as a new day begins to dawn. Elsewhere, Ladon complains about his recent string of bad luck. But but a shadowy figure tells him not to worry. It's General Duke, who promises to protect his subordinate, but Ladon is still worried about the consequences of his actions. The general's patience wears thin, and he quickly puts Ladon in his place. Guess he's not a fan of questions. He offers his support, but it comes with a condition. Their little arrangement must remain a complete secret. The general tells Ladon to do his part while he handles the higher-ups. He then brings up a rumor about a first-year snitching to Sergeant Fay. Ladon bows, promising he knows exactly what to do. The scene shifts to the academy office, where a meeting is underway. The staff gathers to discuss the second year's recent violent outburst. The head of the meeting assumes everyone has read the official report. Another officer asks General Duke for his input on the punishment, but the general just feigns ignorance, claiming he has no idea what to do. What a leader. Instructor Leo speaks up, pointing out the report blames Woden for starting it all. Sergeant Fay agrees, claiming the second years were only retaliating. General Duke argues that students should learn to speak with their fists. He then turns to a blue-haired student asking for his opinion. Nathan, the head of first year, says second years have no right to bully them. His eyes glint as he asks the general if he agrees. Duke reluctantly concedes, promising to prevent future conflicts. But the meeting's focus shifts to a far more serious matter, a student's death. Another instructor declares that while injuries are acceptable, murder is not. He authorizes an on-the-spot execution for the killer. Well, that escalated quickly. On the academy grounds, armed soldiers now patrol every corner. Quinn watches from a balcony, realizing the incident has drawn serious attention. Back in the dorm, Woden insists that true safety only comes from being the strongest. Quinn agrees, realizing that power is the only way to solve their problems. But he knows he needs more than just skills. He needs real combat experience. Woden suggests a trip to the city to try out the new VR training pods. He turns to Peter, inviting him to come along. With a little encouragement, Peter reluctantly agrees to join. A classic case of positive peer pressure. Quinn knows his friend is still shaken and hopes this will help rebuild his confidence. And so, the three of them head out into the futuristic city. They walk the streets, enjoying a rare moment of normalcy. They even find time to catch a movie, a brief escape from the academy's chaos. They even find time for some classic arcade games. But as night falls over the city, Quinn notices Peter has fallen behind. He's been stopped by a familiar face named Early. The stranger asks to speak with him, and Peter reluctantly agrees. Woden and Quinn tell him not to be afraid, offering their support. But Erla calls them out, saying their assumptions are hurtful. Peter quickly smooths things over, insisting Early is a friend. He tells the others to go on ahead, promising to meet them later. Early comments on his friend's understanding nature as Peter falls silent. Erla suggests they find a more private place to talk. And by talk, he means a brutal beatdown in a dark alley. His friends kick Peter to the ground, telling him he deserves it. Early screams that it's all Peter's fault for snitching to the instructor. But through the pain, Peter vows this is the last time he'll betray his friends. A noble sentiment that Early and his goons find absolutely hilarious. He grabs Peter by the hair, reminding him that he doesn't get to choose. Before breaking his arm, the snap echoes in the alley, a sound of pure agony. Peter screams as the thug's claws dig into his flesh. Erla asks if he'll obey now, but Peter defiantly refuses. Early continues his brutal lesson, one finger at a time. The other thugs just laugh, mocking Peter's agonizing screams. After Peter passes out, Early orders one of his friends to heal him. A green light envelops his hand, mending the broken bones. The healing is complete, leaving him good as new for more persuasion. Erla grins, ready for another round of their very productive conversation. Elsewhere, Quinn and Woden arrive at the VR training hall. Quinn is shocked by the price, but Woden offers to pay without a second thought. He insists it's what friends are for as they get registered for their session. Inside, Woden explains the pods connect to a military server for simulated battles. Quinn knows this kind of tech is way out of his price range. He accepts the room invite, connecting to the virtual world. He looks around in awe, realizing this is how the wealthy train. The simulation materializes around him in a flash of blue light. He finds himself on a bridge, greeted by another player. It's Woden, sporting a very cool custom avatar. Woden explains the system lets you buy skins, and he got some for Quinn. His first choice is a giant spiky cactus. Peak character design. Quinn is furious as Woden struggles to contain his laughter. Woden finally gives him a proper suit, though Quinn feels bad about the cost. Woden explains the mask will keep his identity safe, offering to show him the ropes. The simulation loads, and Quinn is amazed by the potential for unlimited combat practice. But he knows this luxury comes at a price, one he can't let Woden keep paying. Meanwhile, back in the real world, the The city's neon lights hide a darker scene. Peter is dragged into an alley, his pleas for mercy completely ignored. Early gives him one last chance to answer, his voice dripping with menace. He tells Peter to learn his place if he wants to avoid punishment. The thug scoffs, completely confident in his control over the situation. But Peter is paralyzed by fear, his defiance finally broken. He lowers his head in submission, finally reaching an agreement. Early pulls him closer, mocking his newfound obedience. He transfers 100 points, calling it a payment for his cooperation. With the deal sealed, he tells Peter he's counting on him. The thugs walk off laughing, leaving Peter alone in the dark alley. He can only kneel and weep, his spirit finally broken. Later, Quinn and Woden return to find Peter's bunk already occupied. Woden is surprised he's asleep so early, but Quinn just chalks it up to exhaustion. But as he looks over, Quinn can't shake a feeling of concern. He can only hope his friend is truly okay.